SLT Mobitel, the connection. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
All in the details. Parliament gets a lowdown on the Easter attack report as TNA MP calls for an international investigation.
If the state cannot do it, this kind of violation calls for international intervention.
Never too late. Attorney General jumps into action, ordering investigations into sword imports and Easter report suspects. Right of reply. Joining us live tonight, the stock market chairman responds to conflict of interest claims and maintaining momentum. Victory declared. Estate workers finally rejoice after Gazette confirms 1,000 rupee wage hike. All this and much more coming up on First at 9 this Wednesday, the 10th of March 2021.
ඇල්කොහොල් අඩංගු hand sanitizer භාවිත කරන්න. ලෙඩ රෝග ඇති කරන විෂ බීජවලට එරෙහිව සටන් කරන්න. හඳුන්වා දීමේ මිල රුපියල් 350යි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A warm welcome. I'm Indivari Amwatta, bringing to you news from across Sri Lanka and around the world on AdaDerana 24. A report prepared by the Parliamentary Committee on Public Finances on last year's changes to the commodity levy on sugar imports has revealed a massive state revenue loss of up to 16 billion rupees. Now, the report reveals certain large-scale sugar importers unscrupulously manipulated their purchases to take advantage of the reduction introduced at the time by the government and not passed on the benefits to consumers. Citing the contents of the report, Samagi Janabalawegya parliamentarian Dr. Harsha De Silva stated that the reduction of the commodity levy only helped in the enrichment of importers but failed the consumers.
A special commodity act was gazetted by the Ministry of Finance on the 13th of October that brought down the special commodity levy on sugar imports from 50 rupees to 25 cents per kilogram to bring down the retail price of sugar. However, after observing no change in retail prices, the government increased the duty to 40 rupees on the 27th of October. Accordingly, the revised duty was to only come into force a month later. During this time period, several importers imported large quantities of sugar under the import tax of just 25 cents. Further, Lanka Satosa had also purchased a quantity from that stock at prices between 125 to 127 rupees. Subsequently, this stock was sold to the public at 85 rupees, incurring major losses. Further, the report by the Committee on Public Finances on the issue revealed that a loss of nearly 16 billion rupees had been reported due to this. Meanwhile, at a media briefing held today, Samagi Janabalawegya MP Dr. Harsha De Silva, outlining the facts in the report, stated that the special commodity levy had at the time failed to benefit the public and only favoured the importers.
It also says that this has happened due to two reasons. Reason number one, they say it is due to the oligopolistic market structure. They also clarify further that there is one company during this period of time that brought in almost 40% of the sugar, and 6 other companies together brought in 45% of all sugar brought in. And on a aside, we were told by others that since maybe 20 years that they received bulk shipments of sugar, that they had never seen that happen for 2 decades. Which means certain people were just bringing in sugar like there was no tomorrow. Since the market for sugar is an oligopolistic market system, the sellers would easily retain the benefit of the duty reduction fully or partially without transferring to consumers. So in this report, they agree that the reduction of the special commodity levy of 49 rupees and 75 cents could have either gone completely to the importers or a significant component of it to the importers as opposed to the consumers. What is the point in reducing the taxes and writing it down here saying either full or partially it will go to the importers and not to the consumers? The second thing they say is the inefficiency of the Consumer Affairs Authority to maintain the so-called control price for sugar, which was gazetted at 85 rupees a kilogram. So there's clearly been a loss to the exchequer. 15.9 billion rupees didn't come to the treasury.
Sri Lanka's best health insurance with the fastest claim settlement. Soft Logic Life.
Pay just 500,000 rupees to reserve your unit today. Mulberry Residence.
Now, Sri Lanka's stock market, after months of losses last year during the long drawn-out COVID-19 pandemic restrictions on trade and economic activity, turned around in the January to February period to become the best performing stock market in the world and recoup most of its losses. However, the past month, the index has seen seesawed and with a mix of trading halts and positive days, wiping out most of the major gains that we saw during the January to February period. As of yesterday, however, the ASPI gained some momentum, inching close to a double-digit year-to-date gain of 8.03%, while the S&P SL20 crossed the mark at 10.18%. With that, I thought I'd invite Chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange, Dumit Fernando, to speak a little about the ongoing controversies, claims, and probably the outlook for the stock market.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you for joining us. My first question, I thought, maybe with the stock market giving away most of the gains it made during this year, what's really going on here?
Yeah. Let's first put that in perspective. The stock market, as you said, is up about 8%, maybe a little under that after some today's performance. But first of all, if you look at markets around this region, we are in a small bunch of markets that are actually up in that 6 to 8% range.
Right.
There's Thailand, Taiwan, Singapore, India, and Sri Lanka, which have performed at that range. So most global markets have actually had pretty weak performance this year. Even if you take markets like in the US, in the S&P 500 or the UK markets, the Chinese market,
right.
Many markets are down for the year. So we have to put that in context that we've actually had a pretty robust performance. We are still one of the better performing markets this year. In January, the market was up about 29%. Then it came off about 14% in February. There were a number of factors, I think, that contributed to this. First of all, the market went up very rapidly. When a market goes up 30% almost in a month,
right.
Clearly you will see opportunities for profit taking, and certainly some investors did do that. Secondly, we had a bit of international news around the sovereign debt repayment. Some international investment banks put out some research reports that were not quite in our favor.
Right.
So that led to some of the foreign investors also continuing to sell down, and then this year we've continued to see foreign outflows. But the local market was very active. The local investor base was very active. And then there was this concern about the circulars we issued at the Colombo Stock Exchange, which was essentially a request for information from stockbroker firms.
Right.
But this was utterly misinterpreted by the market as something that was aimed at bringing restrictions into the market. I think that had an impact on that as well.
But there has been a lot of discussion and debate about the role the SEC and CSE have in clamping down on broker credit and the impact that had on the market.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to this?
Let me give you the facts. So at the end of January, the broker credit outstanding was 7.5 billion rupees roughly. And as of the end of February, that number was 10.5 billion. So I think it's pretty clear that there was no clamping down.
Right.
As I said, the CSE nor the SEC put any hard restrictions on any stockbroker from lending. And I think a number of stockbroker firms have continued with their credit policies. I can't speak to all of the firms. I know in my firm, the amount of forced selling has been zero. So there's been a lot of misinformation. Unfortunately, through social media, WhatsApp groups and Twitter, we've seen a lot of misinformation. But the reality is there was no actual clamping down. Now, having said that, I will say it is a duty of a stock exchange, of the regulator, to continue to support a market that will be sustainable in the long term, not just have very quick runs in a very short period of time. But so we will continue to support the market in a way that we will have sustainable growth.
You mentioned about social media, but I've seen several claims on social media and questions raised about about how ethical, the appropriateness of you being you heading a leading stockbroking firm and also being the chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange. Yeah. Isn't this a concern?
Good. You're asking the tough questions, and I'm glad you are. The stock exchange is a company limited by guarantee where 15 stockbroker members are actually the owners of the equity. So since the stock exchange launched 35 years ago, every single chairman of the stock exchange has been a representative of a stockbroker firm, and that's rotated across different firms. So this notion, if there is a notion or questioning the appropriateness of the role of the chair of the stock exchange being also from someone from a stockbroker firm, it's just part of how it is structured. Now, there are obviously questions rightfully about the governance. Now, we take a very serious approach to governance. We have strict confidentiality agreements. Every single board meeting, we sign off, not as a one-off, but at every single board meeting, we sign off a conflict of interest disclosure. And we have signed non-disclosure agreements, as I mentioned. And many times, in fact, the regulatory arm of the stock exchange acts independently, knowing that some of the board members are representatives of broker firms. So we have gone a long way in maintaining that independence. I think if there's any notion that that has been violated, I think once again that's misinformation. And as I said, that's how the stock exchange has been for 35 years. But yes, we are pushing to demutualize the stock exchange so the ownership and the governance can be changed, and that's one of our key agenda items between the CC.
Very quickly before we let you go, where do you think the stock market will go from here? What's the outlook going forward? Yes, we have seen a good rally, and then we've seen a massive slump, and then we see the stock market bouncing back. But from the CSE and SEC point of view also, how will you work together to ensure that there's stability?
Yeah. So I think I sat here in May of last year with you and said this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for buyers, and that proved to be right. The market was up 60–70% after that. I would say, you had a very active and high-growing January. The market has come off. It's presented another buying opportunity. Basically, you have much better valuations. Most of the sectors in the stock exchange have dividend yields well north of what interest rates are today. And the earnings outlook is strong. There was very good news today about the Chinese swap of $1.5 billion, which will help the story around foreign reserves. With the vaccinations going on, we are able to open up the country for tourism. So the fundamentals are all headed in the right direction.
Thank you very much for your time here.
Okay, thank you.
We had with us Dumit Fernando, chairman of the Colombo Stock Exchange. We'll take a short break now. Please stay with us.
කොරෝනා වෛරසයෙන් 99.9% දක්වා විනාශ කිරීමට උපකාරී වන Surf Excel Hygiene Boosters.
Welcome back. Parliament today commenced the debate on the final report of the Presidential Commission appointed to investigate the Easter Sunday terror attacks. During sittings, Minister of Public Security Rear Admiral Sarath Weerasekara stated that investigations have uncovered sufficient proof to suggest that the ideological mentor of Zahran Hashim and theoretician of the extremist group, Mohammed Naufal, could be the mastermind of the attacks. The minister also assured the House that measures have been taken to expedite the recommendations of the Easter Commission report. Meanwhile, weighing in on the matter, ITAC parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran highlighted failures of successive governments to deliver justice to the victims of the attacks and expressed his fullest support for international investigations into the attacks as well as for probes into Sri Lanka's alleged war crimes.
The parliamentary debate on the final report of the Presidential Commission probing the Easter attack commenced this morning. During sittings, it was revealed that 676 persons have been arrested so far in connection with the attacks, of which 200 have been imprisoned, while 66 are being questioned in detention. In addition, 54 persons involved in the attacks were identified from foreign countries, out of which 50 have been extradited. The other 4 are yet to be deported to Sri Lanka for legal proceedings. Further, it was revealed that 17 women had volunteered as suicide bombers, out of which only 12 remain alive. Out of the women, 3 have been imprisoned, 7 are being detained, and the remaining 2 are yet to be arrested. In addition, it was also revealed that since 2018, the Ibrahim brothers had provided up to 50 million rupees in funds to the outfit. Meanwhile, links between ISIS and Islamic extremists in Sri Lanka were also revealed today.
එවකට පැවති රජයේ ජාතික ආරක්ෂා පිළිබඳ තිබූ මන්දගාමී ආකල්පය මෙම ප්‍රහාරය වළක්වා ගන්නට තිබූ අවස්ථා 9ක් අහිමි වී තිබෙන බව ඉතා පැහැදිලි. සහරන්ගේ ජාලයට අමතරව ශ්‍රී ලංකාව තුළ ක්‍රියාත්මක වන වෙනත් අන්තවාදී සංවිධාන හඳුනාගෙන එහි ප්‍රධාන සමාජිකයින් අත්අඩංගුවට ගැනීමට ත්‍රස්ත මර්දන සහ බුද්ධ්‍යංශය කටයුතු කර තිබෙනවා. එම සංවිධාන නම් වන් උන්මා, හිස්බුඩ්, තාහිර්, මුජහර්දීන් අල්ලාහ, සුපර් මුස්ලිම් යනාදියයි. මෙහිදී වසර ගණනාවක් කටාර් රාජ්‍යයේ සිටි මොහොමඩ් ඉබ්‍රාහිම් මොහොමඩ් නෞෆර් එම නෞෆර් නැමැති දැනට අත්අඩංගුවට පසුවන පුද්ගලයා 2016 සිට සහරාන් සමග සමීපව කටයුතු කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් විමර්ශනය කර තිබෙනවා. ඒ අනුව අබුබකර් අල් බැග්ඩාඩ්ගේ මතවාදයට සහරාන් සම්බන්ධ කිරීමට නෞෆර් සැලකිය යුතු කාර්යභාරයක් ඉදිරි කර ඇති බවට විමර්ශනයේදී හඳුනාගෙන තිබෙනවා. මෙම නෞෆර් නැමැත්තා සහරාන් සමග සම්බන්ධ වෙමින් ප්‍රහාරය දක්වා ඔහුව මතවාදීව මෙහෙවා ඇති බවට දැනට ත්‍රස්ත මර්දන හා විමර්ශන කොට්ටාශයෙන් සිදු කරන විමර්ශන වලදී පැහැදිලි වෙනවා. එයින් මෙම ප්‍රහාරයේ පිටපත සිටි ප්‍රධානතම මූලධර්මවාදියා මෙන්ම සහරාන්ව මෙම ප්‍රචණ්ඩකාරීත්වයට යොමු කළ ප්‍රධානතම පුද්ගලයෙකු ලෙස නෞෆර් හඳුනාගෙන තියෙනවා. ප්‍රහාරයට අවශ්‍ය සියලු මුදල්, භෞතික සම්පත් ඉල්හාම් ඉන්ෂාන්ගේ සහෝදරයන් තම ව්‍යාපාර වලින්ද විදේශ රටවල අන්තවාදී සංවිධාන සහ මැදිපෙරදිග IS ලැබි කණ්ඩායම් හරහාද දී තිබෙනවා. ප්‍රහාරයට අවශ්‍ය පසුබිම ඍජුව සහ වක්‍රව නිර්මාණය කළ මෙරට ක්‍රියාත්මක වන අන්තවාදී සංවිධාන 11ක් හඳුනා ගැනීමෙන් එම සංවිධාන නුදුරේදීම තහනම් කිරීමට අපි කටයුතු කරනවා. පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය සම්බන්ධ ජනාධිපති කොමිසම් සභාව ඉදිරිපත් කරන නිර්දේශ ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට අවශ්‍ය සියලු කටයුතු සූදානම් කර හමාරයි.
සුරේෂ් සලේ කියන මේ බුද්ධ්‍යංශ නිලධාරියා සහරාන් එක්ක සම්බන්ධ වුණාද කියලා ඔබතුමාලා පරීක්ෂණ කරලා බලන්න. ඒ වගේම අපි කියනවා මේ ප්‍රහාරය වළක්වන්නට කටයුතු නොකරපු ඒ සියලු දෙනාටත් දඬුවම් දෙන්න ඕන.
සුරේෂ් සලේ තමයි අද රාජ්‍ය බුද්ධ්‍යංශයේ ප්‍රධානයා හැටියට කටයුතු කරන්නේ. එතුමා තමයි මේ වර්තමාන රජයේ බලයට පත් වුණාට පස්සේ මේ පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය පිළිබඳ දේශීය විදේශීය සම්බන්ධතා සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම සොයාගෙන මේ විමර්ශන කටයුතු සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම කඩිනම් කරන්නට මූලික වෙලා ක්‍රියා කළේ එතුමා.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු කමිටු වාර්තා හදනකොට අපි සාක්ෂි ගත්තේ 55 දෙනෙක්ගෙන් පමණයි. නමුත් මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි දන්නා ජනාධිපති කොමිසම 450 ගානකින් සාක්ෂි අරගෙන තියෙනවා. නමුත් ආසානයේ දීලා තියෙන්නේ අපි දීපු වාර්තාවම තමයි. එකම වෙනස ආරක්ෂක රාජ්‍ය ඇමති රුවන් විජේවර්ධන හා 2018 වෙනතෙක් සිටි නීති හා සාමය ඇමති සාගල රත්නායකට චෝදනා එල්ල වෙලා නැහැ. අපේ වාර්තාවේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට චෝදනා එල්ල කරලා තිබුණා. මොකද රුවන් විජේවර්ධනලා වගේ අය රාජ්‍ය ආරක්ෂක ඇමති කිව්වට හෙලිකොප්ටරකින් වටේ ගියා ඇරෙන්න රටේ ආරක්ෂා ගැන කිසි දෙයක් කරේ නැහැ. අපට වර්තමාන රජයෙන් අහන්න වෙනවා. ඒතකොට සැලේ අවුරුදු 4ක් බුද්ධ්‍යංශ ප්‍රධානිය වෙලා ඉඳලා 2016 දක්වාම ඇයි සහරාන් විරුද්ධව කිසිම දෙයක් කතා කරලා නැත්තේ? මෙම කොමිසම සංවේදී තොරතුරු හෙළි කරන්න බෑ කියනවා. ප්‍රහාරයක් එල්ල වෙලා ඉවර වුණායින් පස්සේ ඒකේ හංගන්න සංවේදී දෙයක් නැහැ. මං හිතන්නේ මේ සංවේදී තොරතුරු කියන්නේ වෙන මොකුත් නෙමෙයි. සහරාන්ගේ නෝනා කියන්න ගිහිලා නවත්තපුවා. ඒව නැත්නම් සාරා පුලස්තිනී කියන්න තියෙන ඒවා. ඒවා තමයි මේ සංවේදී තොරතුරු කියන්නේ. ඒවා තමුන්නාන්සලා එළියට දාන්න.
Successive governments have failed to mete out justice in this regard. We have had several inquiries into this matter. Have we now got to the root? Have we found the mastermind of this attack? No, we haven't. I heard Honorable Mahindananda Alkamage say that Zaran is the mastermind. No, none of us accept that. His Eminence also does not accept that. There is no mastermind revealed in this report. Whose agenda it was, who stood to benefit. After 2 inquiries, if we say we are still unable to name the mastermind, then is there something that is being covered up? However much you shout from the rooftops here that this is a domestic matter, we will look after. You haven't looked after. His Eminence has called for international inquiry after 2 years. We have waited for 11 long years or longer than that. How can anybody blame us? That happens only when the state fails its citizens. So this is an opportune moment for me to ask from both sides of the house who have said that there need not be any international investigation. In respect of this matter, you are asking for international investigation. Your religious leader is calling for that. And with justification, I support that. If the state cannot do it, this kind of violation calls for international intervention.
Following the filing of a writ application by the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, the Attorney General has issued instructions to the Inspector General of Police calling for an investigation into the 6,000 swords imported on the instructions of the Cinnamon Grand suicide bomber. The IGP has been tasked with the launching of a comprehensive investigation into the matter and taking action against those found responsible. In addition, the IGP has also been instructed to begin probes into the suspects mentioned in the final report of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the Easter Sunday terror attacks.
The Attorney General has directed the Inspector General of Police to conduct a comprehensive investigation into the import of a stock of 6,000 swords and other such weapons into the country prior to the Easter attacks. The Attorney General's instructions came about as a result of a writ application filed by the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit. The coordinating officer of the Attorney General, State Counsel Nisha Rajayratne, explained. The IGP has been further instructed to deal with any suspects connected to the incident according to the country's laws. When the petition filed by the Archbishop of Colombo seeking an impartial investigation into the import of a large consignment of swords was taken up in the Court of Appeal on March 5th, the Attorney General was then instructed to present submissions on probes into the incident in consultation with the IGP and the Defence Secretary. It was also revealed in court that the swords were brought into the country by an individual identified as Mohammad Sattar on the orders of Mohammad Insaf, the Cinnamon Grand Hotel suicide bomber. To date, the authorities have so far succeeded in locating 600 of the total number of imported swords. Meanwhile, the Attorney General has also directed the Inspector General of Police to commence investigations into 5 suspects revealed in the report compiled by the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the Easter Sunday terror attacks. Accordingly, probes have been ordered into individuals named Abu Hind, Lukman Talib Ahmad alias Abu Abdullah, Rimzan and Pulastini Mahindran alias Sarah Jasmine, named in Chapter 17 of the report. In a statement issued today, the Attorney General's office announced that a special team of 12 AG's department officers have been assigned to study the evidence in the PCOI report. The Attorney General on the 8th of March called on His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit and briefed the prelate on the progress of the legal matters and the investigations. Having pointed out that the final report was focused on those who failed to prevent the attacks, the Attorney General noted that it was of paramount importance to study all evidence, as the report does not include concrete information about the masterminds, conspirators, and individuals who directly and indirectly aided and abetted the blasts. Further CID investigations are to be completed and all evidence recorded by the PCOI studied by the Attorney General before serving indictments against those responsible for the attacks.
With the Minister of Justice Ali Sabri having announced a November deadline for the review of Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act, the leader of the National Unity Front, Asad Saleh, says that doing so will not change how the Muslim community lives and practices their faith. Addressing a media conference yesterday, he added that the Muslim community will continue to follow the Holy Quran and Sharia laws regardless, and that the state laws will only apply to the rest of the country.
මුස්ලිම් නීතිය කවුරු වෙනස් කරාද අපි වෙනස් කරන්නේ නැහැ. අපේ නීතිය අපිට, ඔයගලගේ නීතිය ඔයගලන්ට. හරි වැරදි බලන්නේ අපි. අපිට කුර්ආනයයි හදීසයයි ශරියායි තමයි අපේ නීති රීති නම් අපි ඒක ගරු කරනවා මිසක් රජේ නීතිය බලන්නේ නැහැ. රජේ නීතිය තියන්න පුළුවන්. රජේ නීතිය රජේට, රටට. අපේ වටාව ඇවිල්ලා අපේ නීතිය කුර්ආනයේ හදීස් නබිතුමාගේ හදීස් එක ඒ ඇරෙන්න අපිට ඊට පිට නීතියක් අපිට නැහැ. අපි ඒක තමයි ගරු කරන්නේ. අපි ඒක පිට තමයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. මෙච්චර කල් ජීවත් වුණේ මේ අවුරුදු 73ක් නිදාස හම්බ වෙලා තිබිච්ච නීතිය මේ ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයා ආවා කියලා වෙනස් කරුවා කියලා අපිව වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ. අපේ නීතිය අපිට. කැන්ඩියන් නීතිය නුවර කට්ටියට. තේසවලම් නීතිය යාපනයේ කට්ටියට. ඒ ඔක්කොටම පන්සල් පල්ලි කෝවිල් චර්ච් ඔක්කොටම නීති රීති ගෙනාවනේ. ඒ නීති රීති ඒවම තියෙනවා. ඒවා වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ. වෙනස් කෙරුවයි කියලා පොතෙන් වෙනස් කෙරුවයි කියලා අපේ වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? බෑ. අපේ ජීවන වටාව වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? බෑ. අර සල්ලි තියෙන මිනිහා හතරක් බැන්දාම මේගොල්ලන්ට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ මොකද්ද? නැති බැරි වුණා, ඇති බැරි කරනවා. ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයාගේ සංකල්පේ. ඒක තමයි වෙන්නේ.
Estate workers finally enjoy a wage hike. Details coming up after this break. The The country's estate workers celebrated a long-awaited victory today following the issuing of a Gazette notification by the Ministry of Labour, increasing their daily wage to 1,000 rupees. After months of somewhat heated negotiations with estate companies, the ministry ratified the recommendations of the Wages Board and confirmed the 900 rupee daily wage and a 100 rupee budgetary relief allowance with immediate effect.
The extraordinary Gazette notification increasing the daily wages of estate sector employees up to the long-awaited 1,000 rupees has been published by the Ministry of Labour. The Gazette notification, which came into effect from the 5th of this month, says the decision adopted by the Wages Board for the tea and rubber growing and manufacturing trade was approved by the Ministry of Labour as per the provisions in Chapter 136 of the Wages Board Ordinance. Accordingly, a minimum daily wage of 900 rupees and a budgetary relief allowance of 100 rupees have been mandated by the Gazette notification. Previously, estate sector employees were only eligible for a daily wage of 750 rupees, including a fixed allowance of 50 rupees and another allowance titled the overkilo rate if the workers' daily capacity is exceeded. In the budget proposals for the year 2021 presented in Parliament, Minister of Finance
The country's estate workers celebrated a long-awaited victory today following the issuing of a Gazette notification by the Ministry of Labour, increasing their daily wage to 1,000 rupees. After months of somewhat heated negotiations with estate companies, the ministry ratified the recommendations of the Wages Board and confirmed the 900 rupee daily wage and a 100 rupee budgetary relief allowance with immediate effect.
The extraordinary Gazette notification increasing the daily wages of estate sector employees up to the long-awaited 1,000 rupees has been published by the Ministry of Labour. The Gazette notification, which came into effect from the 5th of this month, says the decision adopted by the Wages Board for the tea and rubber growing and manufacturing trade was approved by the Ministry of Labour as per the provisions in Chapter 136 of the Wages Board Ordinance. Accordingly, a minimum daily wage of 900 rupees and a budgetary relief allowance of 100 rupees have been mandated by the Gazette notification. Previously, estate sector employees were only eligible for a daily wage of 750 rupees, including a fixed allowance of 50 rupees and another allowance titled the overkilo rate if the workers' daily capacity is exceeded. In the budget proposals for the year 2021 presented in Parliament, Minister of Finance Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa had proposed a daily wage increase of 1,000 rupees for the estate sector. Although several rounds of discussions were held with all stakeholders who signed the Estate Employees Salary Collective Agreement of 2019-2021, one party, the Ceylon Employees Association representing the Estate Owners Association, had instead proposed an increase of 920 rupees. The matter was subsequently referred to the Wages Board by Labour Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva. When the Wages Board met on the 8th of February, it was decided that plantation workers be given a minimum daily wage of 900 rupees and the budgetary relief allowance of 100 rupees. The decision was then confirmed during the meeting of the Wages Board held on the 1st of March.
Sri Lanka continues to record a decline in its island-wide COVID-19 numbers following the commencement of the national vaccination program. Only 304 COVID-19 infections were reported yesterday, with Colombo no longer leading the district-wise numbers after reporting only 29 infections. In the meantime, the Galle District's Mosque Trustees Association has proposed 4 areas in the district to the district secretary and the Director General of Health Services as suitable burial sites.
The number of COVID-19 infections detected yesterday stood at 304, with 288 of them reported from 22 districts, while foreign arrivals accounted for the remaining 16. For the past 3 days, however, the Gampa district has continued to report the highest number of infections. In the district breakdown, 42 infections were reported from Ratnapura, 32 from Galle, 29 from Colombo, 18 from Kandy, 17 from Mana, 13 from Mullaitivu and 12 from Jaffna. What's more, 58 infections were reported from the other 14 districts. During the course of today, 300 infections have been reported island-wide so far. Meanwhile, Chairman of the Galle District Mosque Trustees Association, Maulavi Alhaj Mohammad Suruddin, has informed the District Secretary of Galle and the Director General of Health Services of 4 locations for COVID-19 burials. Accordingly, the lands proposed are those belonging to mosques located in Katugoda, Halivala, Navinna and Osanagoda in Galle. He added that the areas are suited for this purpose due to being located in hilly regions. Meanwhile, on the vaccination front, health officials immunized 6,713 people yesterday. This brings the total number of people vaccinated as of last evening to 743,775. In the meantime, the number of COVID-19 recoveries spiked to 83,210 after 457 more COVID-19 patients recovered during the day. With that, the number of active cases now stands at 2,922.
Now, a 5-member judge bench of the Supreme Court has been appointed by the Chief Justice to hear a petition challenging the 20th Amendment to the Constitution filed by public interest litigation activist Nagananda Kodituakku. Supreme Court Justice Gamini Amarasekara, Yasantha Kodagoda, AHMD Nawaz, Kumuduni Wickramasinghe and Shiran Gunaratna will hear the petition on the 12th of March. Kodituakku cites in his petition that the manner in which the 20th Amendment was passed is against the law and that it has jeopardized the sovereignty of the judiciary. It was in October last year that the 20th Amendment to the Constitution was passed with amendments with a 2/3 majority. And that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for watching. Good night.